Hello and welcome to Deconstructing the Construct, episode 51. Too soon? Maybe. So, episode 50 was focused on the recent events over the course of a week, last week. I want to start this one by going back a little bit further. As shared leading up through the process of the waves, I shared graphs measuring various things, and one of them has been a graph that was created and is being using to measure the process and progress of the seventh wave. So I want to just share that with you for the moment, which is here. So started measuring on the 17th of August. As you can see, very little. And we kept hitting a plateau. By the 31st of August, it was only 77% complete. And it's just been kind of bumping along a little bit. We certainly stopped for a good week there at 98. And as of last night, we hit 98.9. And I've got something of an explanation for it, which came in the form of a message from Lilu back on Thursday, September 27. I was involved in a really interesting discussion with people here at my house about multiple personalities. And there was, as there often is, the sense that you're being listened to. And once we sort of discussed various aspects and theories around multiple personality, she came in with a message and said now she understands a lot more, that Earth's real name is Epha, and it was set on the third timeline away from 99% of the rest of the universe. That there are only 12 realms of time. The first timeline is home, the 12th timeline is the end of time, and that the third timeline agreed to imprint all of the 12, which is why we have everything represented here. Animals, planets. It's not just Earth, it's everything we see. So that, you know, our solar system, all of that is part of this third realm, third timeline, and everything is represented here. That for each soul to live here for one life, they are imprinted with all 12 imprints through one life. That the code 1010E is the imprint code, and it's why she couldn't fully crack it. And that's the term she used. I couldn't fully crack it, which is interesting because there was other references to cracking the dome and so forth. So I'm not sure what all that means exactly. This also led into some intuitive kind of feeling into around the whole 12-strand DNA discussion. And where I sit right now is there feels to be a connection between the 12 realms and the supposed 12 strands of DNA. And my feeling is we're actually merging it into a single strand. The 12 strands of DNA represents the fractalization into these separate realms. And that as we've been going through these different eras and epochs, we've actually been merging them back in. And perhaps this final merge is the home, exit, end of time, realms, timelines that are still, I don't know. But it feels like to me the idea that we are to activate or potentially gain and end up with 12 strands of DNA may be an attempt to get us to refractalize. Just a thought. Still playing with that one. Now jump forward to Tuesday, the 2nd of October. I somewhat spontaneously had a vision. Now, from my perspective, I was looking at a black circle, a very deep black circle. And from either side of me, and around that was just the regular blackness of when you've got your eyes closed. From either side of me, there was like a shard, triangular shard coming in. This one was green. And it was sort of sharp-edged, as if you got a green crystal, smashed it, and then kind of glued all the pieces together again. It had depth to it. I could see that there was a lot of depth in there. This side was blue, and it was very smooth and circular. And the two were coming like this at an angle, and they were going to hit this black circle at the same time. And I also knew that this, where we are, was on the other side of that black circle. That I was somehow, and at first I thought I was behind the sun. And when I opened my eyes, I was actually blinded as if I had been staring into the sun for some time. I needed help to get into the bathroom. It was interesting, as if I'd, essentially done that, just like stared at that super white sun for some time. It was really bright, whited out my vision. I think it was, and the reason I'm sharing this is because of what happened last night, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing today, because it gave me context for that. There are some who believe there is a black sun, and that it's behind the sun that we see. I know Yellow Rose for Texas refers to a black sun she calls Ed. It's the timekeeper or something in her narrative, I'm not sure. But there's references to black sun. I think that's what I was actually seeing. It was these two, that's just how they presented themselves. You know, whether it was two new bits of code or whatever it was that was coming in, and it was going to smash through the black sun. That night, back, I missed this bit, but also on Thursday, September 27, we heard it here, and I've got friends who heard it in different parts of the world. There was very strange noises in the sky that sounded like jet fighter, but not. There was no Doppler noise attached, so it was just this constant, like a jet was sitting over your head. It was really loud. And it wasn't just here, it was in several places. So then Tuesday, 2nd of October, was the black sun vision. Just last Wednesday on the 10th, for some reason, the Simpsons version song, Happy Birthday Lisa. Now, I obviously don't think of that song at any other point other than my birthday. And inevitably, a lot of people send it to me on my birthday on Facebook. But it started going through my head and would not leave, and it kept coming in with this sense of celebration, party, get ready. And then on Friday, yesterday, the 12th, again in the afternoon, there was this real sense of, actually it started in the morning, happy, joyful, real home vibe, lots of energy, didn't know what to do with ourselves, kind of frenetic energy. And then I saw a vision of a friend of mine who passed a couple of months ago. and he was standing there with a sword, with a samurai sword, in fact. And that should have given me a heads up, but it didn't. Then last night, around 7, I think, my time, the first thing that happened was seeing a cross, like a religious cross, and it fell over. And this had a distinct feel of something going down to do with the Vatican in real time. There was something about it happening in that moment. Now, this was a shared experience, myself and 3 others. So what I'm about to share with you is all the different bits and pieces we were getting in the moment. I saw the cross fall over. Then one of the other ones saw the St. Peter's altar, 4-pillared black altar thing, with the distinct feeling of bleach. It had just been bleached, that whole area cleaned and bleached. Then I was seeing what looked like honeycomb with a net over it. The net snapped so that the netting was preventing clear, like a clear line of sight and clear entry into the honeycomb portions. The netting broke and sort of like a really tight net, so you break one and it just snaps and everything just falls apart. And then the honeycomb section started to light up. Someone else saw the same thing as a lion slashing the veil. The other 2 saw it as everyone from home, like in a line, pushing. We were all seeing that at the same time, our own versions. And then there was a breakthrough. They broke through. And I mean that literally. Well, I know. What was seen, I saw an army of Lyrans. Several dragons were seen. Now, these Lyrans are from outside the construct, not galactic inside the construct versions, outside. Dragons from outside. And several hundred of another race of beings that I am actually not going to identify or name as yet. Because, 1, you wouldn't believe me. 2, we don't know them from mythology like dragons. We don't know them as being represented by the galactics like the Lyrans. We know them through modern day storytelling. And however, there is evidence for them historically. And contact between us and this race. If anybody else sees it, names it, then I will. But as yet, I'm not. So we had an army of lions, several dragons, and several hundred of this other race. And I mean literally, they broke through. They are now inside the construct. They are physical 3D here. The war is here. The war is here now. The fighting in this space has begun in a real way. Messages came through that it was a very precarious entry, but no losses on our side. There were, I only heard it. Another one of us saw it, a particular being, a man in a suit, somewhere in Europe, couldn't tell you where, was taken out. This is a person who is very, very old, but still actually only looks about 30, 35. One of the darkest beings here. And that's kind of all we know at this point. There was also computer systems taken out. There was a scramble to try and enter code into a computer, and the computers were destroyed before they could do it. The message was that we are all necessary for this to happen. We are needed. It's such a collaboration that I can't emphasize that enough. Once they got into this space, there was an element of them seeing us for the first time, really seeing us, not seeing us energetically the way we see them, not seeing us as balls of light, not seeing us as these, they saw us in our broken down 3D form. And there was absolute shock that this is, because they've been looking at us through frosted glass. And they're just seeing our light shine. They're just seeing our code. It was a real shock and sadness, but at the same time, awe and shock that we are even able to carry as much light as we do and hold the energy that we do, considering the state that we're in. Absolute awe. Which brings me to, I know there's been a lot of talk around physical stuff, the physical stuff that's been going on, disturbed sleep as normal. Hunger, ravenous, like you're having your last meal, or maybe binge eating before you won't need it anymore. Dehydration. To me, these are symptoms of how much we're working. We are using a lot of energy, and we are needing to sustain ourselves a lot more than we used to. The dehydration feels like an adjustment. There is so much code in the water that, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if people are losing a lot of fluid. We are bringing in more of ourselves. Some of you have even experienced not being, like having shortness of breath, not being able to breathe properly, to catch your breath, lots of yawning. And it's because you're bringing in more of you, and that aspect of you is having to adjust to the environment. And it can't quite catch its breath. Or tightness in the chest, like you're literally not fitting into your body anymore. There's more of you and you're not quite fitting in. And it can be a sense of anticipation to the point of anxiety if you don't get a handle on it. So I think that's it. Last night felt huge. Home, what we call home, and those from home were behind those who came in last night, but they're still a fair ways off. No sense as yet as to when the next thing happens. But last night felt very incredibly significant, obviously, because it honestly feels like in real time they broke through and they are here in this space. in 3D, in physicality, and they themselves are having a hard time adjusting to the environment. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.